Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of July 5th to the 11th of 2021. All right, so this week we have the ending of the current lunar month. We have a new moon on late Friday and early Saturday. So it is the closeout phase of this lunar cycle. Good to complete things and finalize things and turn a bit inward in this lower energy phase of the cycle as we gear for some new beginnings going into next week. Now there is still a lot going on astrologically leading up to that new moon. We do have Mars going into expressive Leo on Monday. So maybe good for some self-expression, having some fun, some playfulness. Venus will join up to that Mars and Leo on Friday as well. So a lot of fire shifts taking place this week, even though it is the lower energy of the cycle. Good for self-expression, passion, love, and fun. Now around Tuesday, Mercury is going to be squaring up to Neptune. So on Tuesday, maybe there is more watery energy, maybe a bit of wanting to escape or hide away. So finding healthy ways of finding peace, particularly with our mind, is great with that. And also Venus will be opposite Saturn. So we'll be doing a little bit of a status check with our relationships and maybe incorporating some discipline, some patience, some responsibility in our one-on-one connections around Tuesday can be great as well. And as we get closer to the new moon on Friday, on Thursday, Venus will be squaring up to Uranus. So maybe some new and different energy could be good for relationships, getting outside that comfort zone a little bit and finding constructive ways of having some excitement and freedom and change in our one-on-one connections can be great around that time. And then no major aspects the later half. So again, that new moon will be closing things out, and then it is a fresh new start going into next week. Around Sunday, Mercury will be going into Gemini. So our minds are definitely going into more of the practical and generally things going more in the yang energy. There's been a lot of yin energy with water and earth, but things going more into the yang, and with Mercury, learning and communication could be emphasized and good to develop next week. All right, so let's take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, July 5th, 2021. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky called True Sidereal Astrology. And this does change the signs from mainstream astrology. The constellations are different sizes here. As you would see them visibly, they're not an even 30 degrees like in mainstream astrology. So the signs do change. If you are new to this channel, definitely check out the link down below for more information. A good example is, this new moon is going to be in Gemini, in the actual constellation of Gemini, but you're probably hearing it being in Cancer in mainstream. So again, if you are new, check out the link down below for more information. All right, so let's do a little bit of a recap since we do have a lot of sign changes. Mercury, Venus, and Mars will be changing sign this week. Mercury at the very end of the week. So just a bit of a recap. We are closing out this cycle. The moon is approaching the sun for the new moon, which will be late Friday, early Saturday. And with the sun in Gemini, I think it is still great to be focused on learning, getting into some of that, willing to not only gain information through more personal ways of maybe learning or reading, and maybe developing things like language and our communication skills, but externally as well. It's a great time of focusing on how we can exchange with others, maybe connecting with our peers, maybe neighbors. It is more of that can be sociable energy of being willing to exchange, right? And so great time of focusing on these things, anything mental, anything communicative, anything practical, and even sometimes some literal exchanging, business, trade, things like this. Very good to be focused on as we do close out the cycle. And this is what we'll be having new beginnings with around the corner. Now, Mercury is finishing up Taurus this week, so our minds are still more in the yin energy of grounded, resourceful Taurus. And so it is good still this week to, when learning, when communicating, to take it one step at a time, right? Taurus, the bull, doesn't like to be rushed. It's good to learn one thing or communicate one thing, one step at a time, nice and grounded. Can be great, but this does make for a collective, self-reliant and resourceful mind, which is still good to develop at this time. Now, Venus and Mars also leaving yin energy of Cancer. Mars doing it right at the beginning of the week, starting to get closer to fiery Leo. So as we go through the week, again, more shift towards the yang, in this case with Leo, when we're taking action. likely good to do so now in a way of wanting to have some fun, wanting to express ourselves, maybe get into some playful energy, right? Doing what we love and what we're passionate about is starting to get activated, first with Mars on Monday, and then with Venus here around Friday. So still a little bit of Cancer energy until about the new moon. So still good to be enjoying with our relationships, a little bit of that more protective energy, connecting to more of our emotions, creating a protective environment for ourselves and others. A little bit of caring and nurturing energy can be great. So still good to do that as we do close out this lunar month. All right, so let's take a look at the aspects. There's a lot concentrated at the early part of the week before that new moon, towards the weekend. And so let's go ahead and break these down one by one. So on Monday, the moon will be in resourceful Taurus all the way through Wednesday. And so I think these first few days of the week are good for anything that does involve that resourcefulness with Taurus. So good for things like connecting to our inner resources, self-worth, self-value, inner strength, self-reliance, and also externally, connecting to nature, having a good meal. Some of that external resource and abundance could be good to relax into and cultivate while the moon's here. The moon's very comfortable here, and this is where we had the last lunar cycle. So it is also good to reflect on the past month and how much we have developed, and maybe what are some things we can complete that does involve that resourcefulness, self-reliance, and abundance. So on Monday with that moon in Taurus, we do have the sun sextiling Uranus. It's a bit minor compared to the other things we had this week, but nonetheless, good to maybe see if there are some things we can think outside the box with, get outside that comfort zone, creates a little bit of change in our lives, I think is certainly available. Nothing we're pushed into, but certainly available. That's something that we could notice a little bit more freeing, maybe towards the weekend of last week when Mars was squaring Uranus. That can feel a little bit more frustrating or a little bit more erratic. But now things lifting off from that, probably easier to have a little bit more of that excitement, a little bit more freedom, a little bit more of that true self coming through as a result of probably the weekend's energy. Now, as we get closer to Tuesday and late Monday, Mercury, the planet of our minds and communication, will be squaring up to watery and receptive Neptune. So especially Monday, Tuesday, this could be the mind that wants to wander, maybe a bit idealistic, maybe seeing some dreams and ideals. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is good to follow those dreams and ideals, but at the same time, surrender what's outside of our control, right? Fundamentally, Neptune is about helping us find more peace in life and finding healthy ways of finding peace. So yes, great time for imagination, great time for spiritual activities as well, doing what's important on a soul level and spiritual level, but at the same time, having faith and trust, being willing to go with the flow, and finding healthy ways of relaxing the mind and finding peace and rest. And all of this could be an emphasis here these first couple days of the week. Now, as we do get to the later part of Tuesday, Venus will start to oppose up to Saturn. And so when it comes to relationships, there's quite a bit going on this week. And opposite Saturn, this is a good time of doing a status check. How is our relationship life going? Maybe making some shifts and changes there to further develop them in a yearly sense, how they've been going for the past roughly 6 months. What are some shifts and changes we can make for roughly the next 6 months? And all in the context of putting in some patience and some responsibility into that area. So good to take time, see things for the long road. It's always good to balance out opposition. So if it becomes too much Saturn energy, too restrictive, or too reserved, just being aware of that can help balance that out. But if there isn't enough of that long-term view or enough of that patience in any context of relating and one-on-one stuff, good to do that as well. Now, Venus is also the value planet, so she does rule resources like Taurus. And so any status check around resources, money, abundance, anything like this, and again, making some shifts and changes towards that we do want to, that we can practice some more patience with, I think is also great around this status check, Venus opposite Saturn. All right, and then when we do get into Wednesday, again, the moon will still be in resourceful Taurus, closing out the lunar cycle. And just a minor aspect, Venus will be trining Chiron. And so maybe some healing coming through in those relationships. And by connecting to abundance and nature around Wednesday could be great. And then once we do get to the Thursday time period, it is definitely the lowest energy phase of this cycle. Good to turn inward a little bit. It's the winter phase of the month, so to speak, as we do start the new cycle next week. Yeah, with that, the moon will be going into Gemini, preparing for the new moon. We may start to feel some of these new beginnings around the corner here on Thursday. And so it's great for some of this, again, learning, practical energy. That's what the whole new cycle will be about. But in this case, again, Venus, the planet of relationships and values, will be squaring up to Uranus. And in the square, it can be a bit impulsive, kind of like that Mars square Uranus we had last weekend, but not as challenging. Venus is much easier to work with. So in this case, if you're wanting some changes, you're wanting to maybe get outside that comfort zone in regards to your relationships, great to do that. Mix some things up in healthy and constructive ways. If there's a part that wants to break free, just being aware of that, so there's nothing too erratic or impulsive with it. But being open to new experiences constructively, I think is great. And this can bring in some fresh new energies, some new energy, some different energy, some change in our relationship life when it's done constructively. I think is great. Now again, being with values and resources, good to find balance with abundance and enjoyments of life, food and resources and all this. Seeing that there are constructive ways of introducing some new energy and some enjoyment in that sense in constructive ways can be great with that square to Uranus. All right, and then so most of Friday for most of us in the world will be closing out. It'll be the very ending of the cycle. The new moon will be very late Friday and early Saturday for most of us in the world. And so gearing up, setting some new intentions, but just sitting with the energy, just being with it as we do get to this lowest phase of the cycle. And slowly, as we get through the weekend, seeing what new things might be arising, from this new beginning. All right, and it's around this time of the new moon that Venus will be going into Leo. So while we start the new beginnings, again, seeing how we can have some of that fun, some of that playfulness. We do come out of some of that Cancer energy. We'll still have Cancer here Saturday and Sunday, so it is still good for, again, some of that protective and caring and nurturing energy those couple days. But with Venus leaving there, it's going to place less of a theme on that, especially in the context of relationships, and more on the fun and playful and expressive energy. So going into next week and really for the coming weeks, especially with Venus and Mars conjunct like this, it's fantastic for all things that are especially interpersonal. Mars and Venus are yin yang, they're relationship energies. So anything interpersonal that is about self-expression, right? Doing what we love, connecting on that level, hobbies, interests, anything expressive like that and fun, and doing, our passions and, things like this, things close to our heart, is really good to connect with and just put some energy and motivation into as we go through next week. And then the last thing we have this week is Mercury will be going into Gemini, where he's in domicile, where he's very comfortable. And so in this context, for the coming weeks, again, with this new moon in Gemini, just more reiteration on the fact that it is so good to be interested and learn and share and exchange with others, which is really what Gemini is all about. All right, everyone. So that is the week in a nutshell. Put simply, is a new beginning, late Friday, early Saturday. We do have a lot of shifts happening. Generally, it's from more yin energy that we've had, which is more receptive, more inward, but slowly starting to get into more yang energy, which is more about action, initiative. Again, give it time, definitely, because it's still the low energy of the cycle, of course. As we get into next week, we'll notice that more, but things that are more about love, passion, fun, very good to put some energy in. And with Gemini, to learn and communicate and exchange, is fantastic. Most of the aspects are concentrated in the first half of the week here. So good to be aware, conscious and constructive with particularly these areas, and maybe in particular with relationships and values and abundance. With Venus in so many squares, so many aspects rather, earlier this week. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that like button if you haven't yet. If you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll see you all next week for the next astrology forecast. Take care.